I'm going to explain a bit more about my spiritual evolution and my ascension journey, which we all move through. We don't all do it at the same time, and sometimes people choose not to do that or not to acknowledge that it's happening. But we're all changing and evolving, and the world is doing the same thing. When I began receiving information, I was quite young and I didn't know what that meant, and I actually tried to block it for many years. I didn't want to know anyone to know what that was, and I also suffered from depression and all sorts of other things that didn't make sense when I was quite young, but I survived somehow. And I then ended up living a life where I was having so many difficulties and struggles, even at a young age, even with illnesses and diseases that I would come down with, and different than my brothers, even. I had three brothers, and I thought, why am I so different? We are all different, and we're all born different, and we're meant to be that. But when we can't figure out who we are, it becomes a little challenging, and this was the challenge for me. So for many years, I struggled through doing a lot of different jobs and careers and all of that. Some of them were great. Some of them worked really well, but it wasn't enough. And it wasn't what I knew I was supposed to do. In 1988, I started doing a process called automatic writing, which you might have known of, and I started receiving information, which was spiritual in nature because it always caused me to feel better, and it gave me the ability to change things in my life. It gave me the ability to completely change my thinking and create things, create big businesses, do all sorts of things, and heal illnesses. I didn't tell anybody about it because it didn't make sense to me. I spent like 10 years trying to keep it hidden for a while because I thought I couldn't explain it to anyone how it was happening, but it was. And that is the thing that came up for me in the last several years, that I know what I have now and I have to give it to others. But coming to understand who you are and what gifts you possess is always a challenge because you haven't done it before. You've never been there. We have never been in a place in our world as we are now. And that's why things are a little disconcerting and all over the place. But I had been channeling information for a while, so I knew what was going on, which is why I started to change things. I started to change things in my coaching, in my direction, because I knew that it was so important as we were all moving through a spiritual evolution, the world, the planet, that the more people who became happy, who became successful, who loved themselves, they would put a different energy into the world, and we would change things because we understand now how the world gets changed energetically. We can understand that through quantum physics, or what we're studying now, what scientists are uncovering, how energy is all that there is. And so there's no difference between any of us at all except how we choose to think. And because I was receiving information in a completely different way than many other people, it was challenging for me to accept what I had. But then I discovered that I was a mystic. So of course I would have this information. I would receive things that would make sense as the world was changing. But I had to come to this cognitive acceptance that that is what has occurred. But it is. That's what went on. My coaching, my philosophy, what I have downloaded, which is called Your Life Operating Instructions, has one premise, and that is that our world is evolving, and the way that we cause that to happen is when each person can understand who they are, their authentic self, how they were born, what God gave them, and they start living that and creating something different in our world, putting something into the world of value, because every single person has it, and when they can do that, our world changes. And I had to sit and think about that and know that I had something from everything that I had lived, which everyone does, because everything you've lived has given you value when you understand it, when you can interpret it in a new way, and that's what I had to do. And I went through it every day since 1988. Is what I did. And so through that time, I was able to fashion, to download this philosophy that anyone could use that would cause you to become so happy, so successful and pleased with yourself that you won't even believe it. That's what I did. But it's this acceptance. As we grow, as we evolve, our consciousness has to expand. We can't achieve something that we can't really conceive of, that we can't perceive. And sometimes that's challenging because we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it exhibited. We haven't seen it demonstrated to us. And this is why we take courses. This is why we go to coaches or mentors, because I did all of those things to finally come to ownership of what I knew. That's the same thing for every single person. So what I'm doing now is I am bringing this work to the world. I'm going to make other bigger connections now, because I know that my time has to be spent in putting this together so that it could help what's going on in this evolution of our world. And in my channeling, and you might have seen this, where I talked about a restructuring. That's what we're all going through. And the information that I was given is that we were all going to be moving through this restructuring, and it was going to be a bit challenging, you see, because we had to examine everything about us. We had to examine every hatred that we had, every little thing that we've been doing to ourselves, all the judgment. The judgment that we have about others goes into the consciousness, and then we have judgment about all others across the planet. That's what happens. We are that powerful. Our energetic contribution is massive when we decide to use it. So this is what I wanted to talk about, because my work now has become, as long as I'm still on the earth, has become giving this work to others who truly want to become their best selves, who want to expand, who want to evolve. And that is what we're doing. And the other thing too is that when we don't do that, things become a little more difficult, not only for us, but in our world as well. All the division that you are seeing or witnessing in different parts of the globe are because we have all carried around these energies that are not uplifting, that are not helpful, that are not productive. And so we have to start with where we are. And so I know that I'm not going to get to everyone, because everybody's not going to do this work, because it's challenging. I had to go through looking at everything that was erroneous that I thought about myself and decide to change it. And we change it in our thinking. And that takes time. It takes time for you to accept, to understand, to observe, and then embody the information you receive. But then what happens is that every day it gets better. This is why I use so much of Carl Jung in my work, because that's what came about. It's like the most effective way to reach your goal is to be consistent. And I've been writing about that for quite a long time, but we know that now. So I just wanted to talk about this because my work going forward is going to be the coaching that takes each individual to understanding who they are, becoming the best that they can be in their lives, because they're given something, and becoming successful, happy, and prosperous. See, because when we put that energy into the world, we change everything. So this is the focus that I'm doing with my work. And I just want to say that because there will be many people who will see this who will consider coming to me for coaching or joining my program, or someone who might want to promote what I'm doing. And I'm going to be talking a lot more about that as well. So you are probably in a place in your life too where something's coming up that you need to grab and hold on to, because it's your authentic self that's being revealed to you.